All right. So this is the category of Deng Xiaoping and the modernization of China, including, and our first stop point here is responses to the death of Zhou Enlai, official and unofficial. So I thought I'd chuck in young Zhou just to go along the same trend that we've been looking at. Leadership became a crucial issue in 1976. The year started with the death of Zhou Enlai and ensured the death of Mao Zedong on 9th of September. It marked the end of the Cultural Revolution and an opportunity for the Gang of Four to finally take power. But we aren't quite there yet. We still have to knock off those two bigwigs. As a moderate, Zhou began to invoke Mao's suspicion with his efforts to restore order to the economy, prompting Mao to fear that Zhou would reverse the Cultural Revolution after his death. Now, remember, Zhou Enlai was a moderate throughout the whole time of the Cultural Revolution, even the Great Leap Forward. He was the one who was kind of in between the parties, just trying to do his best. So keep that in mind as to who he was and what role he has played as we get through this next little bit. During the Cultural Revolution, Zhou narrowly escaped being labelled as a revisionist, instead working quietly behind the scenes to save as many national monuments as he could and reducing the impact of the violence wherever possible. He was always careful, though, to not overstep his power and anger Mao and his moderate nature. Never really kind of going too far either side, just trying to do his best for China. This did not stop Mao in his paranoia of Zhou's political capabilities to impact his legacy. In January 1974, Mao directed Jiang Xing and her fellow radicals to attack Zhou. Not physically, but attack his legacy, his standing within the Chinese public. Resulting anti-Lin, anti-Confucius campaign was an indirect attack, which never publicly named Zhou as a modern-day Confucius, but it didn't need to. Everyone knew it was about him. Slogans soon appeared throughout the cities condemning the Premier's efforts to open China to foreigners. Remember, Zhou was the one really working quite hard to engage with the US and bring the president over at the time. So it was an easy hit to get on him, showing him as a pro-US, pro-foreigner rather than pro-China. However, to many, he was viewed as a viable counterbalance to Jiang Xing and her radical supporters, and the only person who stood in the way of a return to another cultural revolution. In January 1975, Zhou promoted a program he titled the Four Modernizations, and we've come across this already, but to reiterate, he was calling for the modernization in the fields of agriculture, industry, defense, science, and technology, lest China continue to fall behind the rest of the world. Okay, he was just trying to, again, do his best for China. Now, this dot point incorporates two responses, the official and unofficial. So we'll start with the official. This is what the state did. Zhou passed away from cancer on the 8th of January 1976. The official reaction to Zhou's death reflected Mao's fear that Zhou's reputation and legacy may surpass his own in the public's eye. Remember, one of the key features of Mao's, or key goals of Mao in the Cultural Revolution was to cement his legacy after his death. And he was fearing that Zhou, being the great guy that he was, might have cast a shadow over Mao's role. So he wanted to make sure that the official response was really, really low-key. The death was announced in a brief radio broadcast, with Mao refusing to make any official statement to avoid gathering more unwanted public mourning. A memorial service was held on January 12. Deng Xiaoping presented the eulogy, which was full of justified praise for Zhou's achievements and contributions to the revolution. Now, we'll come back to that. Deng Xiaoping playing a role, we'll come back to that. Now, there's actually a YouTube clip that goes for an hour 42, so if you're bored these holidays, you're more than welcome to jump on here. There is a lot of dead Zhou, if that's something you don't want to watch, but it's actually like it's his whole funeral. If you want to watch it, you definitely don't, but shows all the different people, how he was remembered, ceremonies, parades, all that kind of stuff. As you can see, it was part of the Chinese Communist Party film. Pretty cool to have that on you. But we don't have time. So, like I said, a memorial service was held. Deng Xiaoping did the eulogy. And it did talk about the good things that he did, but it was trying to be real kind of address the person, but not necessarily the legacy. Once the service was finished, the official mourning period was declared over. Zhang and her supporters wanted to minimize the outpouring of popular emotion by attempting to ban the wearing of black armbands and white chrysanthemums. And that's a chrysanthemum next to you in that image there. Now, the black armband and the chrysanthemum, it's going so well. Traditional signs of respect and mourning. The mourning period in China seems to be a really, really open and emotional one. So to ban it straight away was a pretty big deal. So obviously it angered the people who saw Zhou as a symbol of hope and moderation. They were upset that he was not given the posthumous recognition they felt he deserved. Posthumous just means post-death. Zhang also announced that there was no need for any memorial service other than an official one. This was an orchestrated campaign to deny recognition to Zhou's many, many years of service to both Mao and the country. So that's the official response. The unofficial response was significantly different. When Zhou died, there was a genuine sense of loss among many Chinese people who saw him as the moderate resistor to much of the Cultural Revolution extremism. Although it was unknown at the time, Mao's refusal of treatment for Zhou's bladder cancer reflected the jealousy Mao obviously felt and condemned Zhou to a painful and prolonged death. So, bad Mao. The funeral route was kept secret, but this didn't stop an estimated 1 to 2 million people who ignored the cold weather to say their goodbye. The universal outpouring of grief saw people from all walks of life weeping in public. Observers report ordinary workers appearing with red and swollen eyes from their weeping when they attended their jobs. It was a natural outpouring of grief that reflected the undercurrent of resentment most felt towards the Cultural Revolution. So this is just your average people openly weeping in the streets for days. It's a big deal. I can't even imagine anything like that for a politician here in Australia, but that's how much they genuinely, not so much worshipped, but appreciated Zhou and respected him and saw him as a real symbol of hope. A March editorial labelled Zhou a capitalist roader who was assisting his fellow capitalist roaders, i.e. Deng, to gain power. And that was met with angry letters and telephone calls. So this is Jiang Xing and them and the Gang of Four trying to derail his legacy, but the people weren't having any of it. So in April 1976, crowds started to gather ahead of the Xingming Festival, which honoured deceased relatives. Now this is April, which is 3-4 months after he had died, where wreaths with eulogies for Zhou began appearing. Hundreds of thousands of people streamed into the square on the day of the festival in a quiet and solemn display of defiance against Chairman Mao. The Gang of Four saw it as an opportunity to assert their authority. Shortly after, over 2 million people attended Tiananmen Square in central Beijing to leave flowers and poems for Zhou on the eve of the festival. Now, those flowers and poems were very quickly removed by police as part of the Gang of Four's attempt to minimize public grief. The following day, April 5th, furious demonstrations turned on police in what became known as the Tiananmen Incident. Now, don't get that confused with the Tiananmen Square Massacre, which we'll look at in about 10 years' time, their time, not our time. But this was the first of the Tiananmen Incident, or the April 5th movement. This was the first spontaneous public demonstration in the People's Republic of China's history. It's a big deal. The first one where they're like, you know what, we're sick of it all this. The poems and eulogies for Zhou turned rapidly into public condemnations of Zhang and the other Gang of Four members, who were seen as the architects of the Cultural Revolution. Slogans soon appeared throughout the country, attacking the Gang of Four, as portraits of the former premier, Zhou, were brandished in public. 10,000 militia, 3,000 police, and 5 battalions of security police surrounded the square. They beat and arrested the counter-revolutionaries inside it. Now, in this photo, you can see an image of just how many people were within this square during that Tiananmen incident. Okay, you can see just how big Tiananmen Square is. You can see how many people were there, and this group of people turned it into a protest, which then turned into quite a big reaction from the PRC. Zhang was delighted, as we always expect, because she's a bit of a nutter, with the suppression, but blamed Deng for the demonstrations and had him, yet again, stripped of all government positions. Even though he had not been involved in organising it, nor did he attend. He was the scapegoat. Again, because Zhang was worried about other people taking her power, so she found someone she could put it all on. Dismissed from all his positions and told that he was being investigated for political mistakes, Deng left Beijing for southern China, where he quietly waited for what would happen next. So that's the official and unofficial responses to the death of Zhou Enlai. So the official was obviously trying to be as low-key as they can to try and minimize his legacy. The unofficial was huge. The people really missed him, really resented the fact they could not show that respect for him in their mourning period, and it turned into the Tiananmen incident, or the April 5th movement, and was the first spontaneous protest against the PRC in its current form. So the questions you have to answer for this one are: outline and explain the difference between the official and public reactions. So what was the difference? Maybe just do a line down the middle and go official, unofficial, and then compare the pair. What was the significance of the April 5th, 1976 demonstrations in Beijing? That's the Tiananmen incident. And this one, number 3 here. This is a HSC question from last year. It's a 5-marker. The example in the book has it about 3/4 of a page. So I've given you a whole page just to play around. And it's purely describe the official and unofficial responses to the death of Zhou Enlai. Okay? You're just turning that dot point into a describe question. So describe doesn't ask you to analyze, to what extent, nothing like that. It's purely just what were the official and unofficial responses to the death of Zhou. That's how you earn your 5 marks. Okay? Nerve-wracking doing it this way. All right, thanks guys, and I will catch you for the next dot point real soon.